ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय जन्माद्यस्य यतो अन्वयादितरतश्च अर्थेषु अभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखादमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः. We now enter the 90th chapter of the 10th Skandha, which is the last chapter of the 10th Skandha. 10th Skandha, as we have seen thus far, is the longest Skandha of Bhagavatam and is the sweetest Skandha as well. It began with the appearance of Krishna as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva in a prison cell in Mathura, and then it has gone through all the various pastimes of Krishna. And now in this last chapter of 10th Skandha, Shuka Brahma Rishi summarizes all his pastimes and the glory of these stories and listening to the pastimes of Krishna. So he begins by saying the greatness of Dwaraka, where Krishna resides. So he says Dwaraka is such an opulent city where days and nights are thronged with people in the beautiful roads and streets, richly adorned soldiers, beautifully decorated people, horses, chariots, all kinds of animals such as horses and elephants, as well as people all in different parts of the city. There were beautiful gardens and parks, various trees in blossom, birds and bees humming. Wealth was everywhere, the most opulent city. The Yadus living there were enjoying all the amenities. The women were all very beautiful and they were all very happy, playful. And Krishna himself living in the city is, of course, the highlight. And he had, as we have seen, 16,108 wives. And each of them had their own mansion. And as we already saw, in the episode where Narada comes and visits Krishna, where Krishna is present in every mansion at the same time with each of his consorts. So each mansion is splendorous, full of wealth, and he is assuming as many forms as the number of wives and sporting with each of them in the specific mansions. And each mansion is so beautiful, full of water tanks with very beautiful, clear water, and with lotuses and other flowers, swans and cranes, birds floating in them, and the Lord sporting with the consorts in the waters very beautifully, while there are singers and musicians playing and singing around. And they were engaged in such beautiful sports, the Lord with his consorts, throwing water on each other and enjoying and thereby demonstrating the beauty of household life with love. And all the consorts were so happy to be with the Lord and thrilled by being touched by him, by hugged by him. And every time he would embrace them, their beauty would enhance. And he is wearing beautiful flower garland and curly locks which are waving freely in the air and playing with them. And after all this is over, they would give generous gifts to everyone around. All the various people, attendants that are there, they will all be given generous gifts. All those who are playing music, singing, they will all be given generous gifts. And in this way, it is said that the Lord used to carry on with his sporting pastimes, with sweet words, endearing glances, enchanting smiles, and jokes and embraces, captivating the hearts of all. And thus Krishna is the be-all and end-all of the lives of all the consorts, and absorbed in the thought of their lotus-eyed Lord, each one of the consorts would remain speechless at times and would break out in songs at times, would look at various birds and objects of nature and speak to them, and some of them are given by Shuka Brahma Rishi very poetically. One of the queens would look at a bird that is awake in the night and say, "Just as I am awake now, you are also awake. The Lord has gone to sleep, and but my eyes cannot sleep because I am constantly thinking of him, and looks like you are also awake for the whole night, not able to sleep, and your heart has also been pierced, just like ours, by the sweet smiles and the gracious glances of the Lord." Another queen looks at a bird who is actually sleeping with eyes closed but seem to be teary eyed and says, "Why are you closing your eyes and yet there are tears? It appears that you are wailing because your beloved has gone out of sight." That is the same state as ours. We are also desirous of seeing our Lord who is gone away out of sight and thereby in the same state as you. Another consort would look at the ocean. As we know, Dwaraka is on the ocean on the west coast of Bharat, and therefore the ocean is roaring and thundering all the time. So one of the consorts would look at the ocean and say, "Why are you constantly roaring? You are not getting any sleep either, it appears. Just like us, you are also affected by insomnia, and your peace has been robbed, just as our peace has been robbed by the beautiful glances of the Lord." Another consort looks at the moon and says, "O moon, look at you, you have become so thin." She looks at the moon in its waning face and says, "You look so thin and you are not able to bring brightness with your rays. Just like us, you also lost your strength because of constantly thinking of the Lord and thereby become very weak." And then one consort would look at the southern wind that's blowing beautifully and tell the wind, "Why are you blowing so beautifully and thereby only increasing the pangs of love in our heart? We are already torn to pieces by the glances of the Lord." Another consort would look at the cloud and beautifully say, "O cloud, your color is exactly the same as our beloved Krishna." The darkish bluish black color is the color of Krishna too. So she says, "You are looking like Krishna, the crown jewel of the Yadavas, and you are also absorbed in the thought of Krishna like us, and it appears that every once in a while you are shedding profuse tears in the form of rain by recollecting him again and again, just as we do." Another consort looks at the beautiful bird who is singing and says, "Your voice is so sweet and melodious, and it appears that you've been thinking of the beloved Lord, and thereby you are singing so sweetly. Your notes are so sweet, and your tongue is like honey, just as our Lord's. And your song is bringing life even to the dead, just as listening to our Lord's speech brings life to the dead." Another consort looks at a mountain there, which is still, and says, "O mountain, why are you not saying anything? You are not moving, you are not speaking. You see, you are still seemingly absorbed in some serious thought. Are you also in deep contemplation of the Supreme Lord?" And another consort looks at the river, which is now dry because of summer weather, and says, "Your beds are dry, and the beauty of you in full bloom is not seen now. You have become very lean and thin. It is the same as our situation. Being robbed of our heart, we have also become so emaciated, being deprived of the beautiful glances of the Lord. And similarly, you also been reduced to a wretched condition because of not getting water from the clouds." And yet another consort looks at a swan and welcomes the swan with milk and says, "O swan, we know you are the messenger of the Lord. Tell us what message you've got. Is he doing hale and hearty? We know that he is very fickle." So the way this consort is talking is similar to how the gopis of Vraja speak to Krishna or speak about him, where they feign anger, whereas in reality they are filled with love. They say, "It appears that he doesn't remember us, so why should we remember him? he is not caring about us, so we'll not care about him too. So you might as well go and tell him that we don't care either, or if you are able to, bring him here. So in this way, even though she speaks as if she is angry, what she desires is to see the Lord. So she says, either go and tell him that we have also forgotten you, or you bring him here. But if you bring him here, then make sure that he is completely available for us so that we can spend time with him. So in this way she is speaking. So Shuka Brahma Rishi thus poetically describes how every single consort looked at various beings, various objects, various animate and inanimate creatures, and expressed their heart, poured their love. So he says, such was the depth of love and devotion of each of the consorts that they were constantly absorbed in Krishna, the supreme yogi. He says, Iti drishena bhavena Krishne yogeshwareshware kriyamanena madhavyo lebhire paramam gatim. So they attain the highest state because of this complete absorption in love. Just as the gopis of Vrindavan, these wives, these consorts too, are completely absorbed in such love. So Shuka Brahma Rishi says it's no wonder, because even to listen to songs and poetry about him is so captivating and draws the mind. Even greater than that is to be able to see him with one's own eyes. Then how much greater it is to be these women who were not only able to see him but have him as as their husband, and be able to massage his feet and feed him and serve him in all kinds of ways. Because he says Krishna is the sole refuge of all virtuous beings, and he is the embodiment of all Vedas, and he demonstrates the perfect householder life as well, where one can engage in householder life, where according to dharma, one can engage in both artha and kama. That is, one can live according to dharma while having opulences and sensual comforts, and everything happens according to the right Vedic way of living in accordance with dharma, and thereby he demonstrated the highest way of life of a householder. And as you know, Shuka Brahma Rishi tells Parikshit he had 16,108 wives and 10 sons with each of them, which is no wonder because of his great might. And all these sons were so wonderful. Pradyumna is the principal among them, as we've already seen, the son of Rukmini, the first and foremost, who was just like his father in every respect. And there are many other sons and grandsons. Every one of them is so strong. Every one of them lived long. Every one of them was so devoted, so valorous, and so on. And thus the Yadu race was so opulent in every possible way. And they were living so virtuously. And they were each great warriors. And they were ensuring that none of the wicked people who would do anything evil, such as rob or molest or anything else, would be instantly punished and removed from society, so that there was peace and order and true happiness in society. And most importantly, for each of them, Krishna was their sole guide, their sole heart, and they faithfully followed him. And their mind was always fixed on Krishna, that whatever they did, whether sleeping, resting, walking, chatting, sporting, bathing, any duty they were performing in their daily routine, their mind was simply completely absorbed in Krishna. And therefore, Shuka Brahmarshi concludes by telling Parikshit, O Parikshit, normally Ganga, which comes from the feet of the Lord, is considered the purest of waters. But even purer than Ganga is the transcendental form of the Supreme Lord, in which he descended in the race of the Yadavas. And therefore, the one who loves his pastimes is blessed. In fact, the one who hates him is also blessed, as we have seen the example of Kamsa, Sishupala, Dantavaktra, and so on. So he says, even the one who is absorbed in him through hatred is liberated, then what to speak of the one who loves him fully? Even his auspicious name, once heard, destroys all evil. All dharma all virtues, all austerities, everything have their as their fountainhead Krishna. So he says beautifully that Krishna is the destination and the essence of all dharma, all virtues, all austerities, and he holds the discus, the Sudarshana Chakra, in his hand, which symbolizes the rotating wheel of time. And with this, he removes the burden of earth. He is the sole asylum of all beings. And even though he is present everywhere as the all pervading Supreme Being, he is manifested as the son of Devaki among the Yadavas, and he has descended to remove the wicked and protect the saintly, and removing the suffering of the saintly and thereby protecting them, and with his charming countenance kindling love in the hearts of people. So this is the highest purpose, more than killing the wicked and removing the burden on earth, more than protecting the saintly and removing their suffering. The highest purpose is, through his wonderful pastimes, kindling love and devotion in the hearts of all men and women, especially such as the gopis of Vrindavan. And thereby he is the true conqueror because he conquers the hearts of all. So, in this way, Shuka Brahmarishi concludes this chapter and this entire 10th Skandha by saying that the Supreme Being who has assumed this transcendental form to chalk out the path of virtue and who has enacted all these wonderful pastimes, any one of them, every one of them being contemplated upon, being discussed, being listened to, cuts the bonds of ignorance, and thereby anyone who seeks to gain the most wonderful privilege of being with the Supreme Lord, realizing Him, ought to simply listen to His pastimes. By simply listening to, chanting, and contemplating on the pastimes. So, this whole 10th Skandha is about the various pastimes of Krishna, as we have seen. So, he concludes by saying the whole purpose of this entire 10th Skandha, which is called Nirodha Skandha, meaning it stills the mind, it stops the mind, and absorbs the mind fully in love, and the heart is fully open. So he says, by listening to, chanting, and contemplating on the charming stories of Krishna every moment, one develops true devotion in the heart, and thereby one realizes the timeless, eternal presence of the Supreme Lord in one's own heart, and that is the highest purpose of life, and it is accomplished simply by listening to the pastimes of the Lord, which is the essence of the whole of 10th Skandha. In this way, Shuka Brahmarishi concludes this 10th Skandha, the most auspicious Skandha of Bhagavatam, the cream of Bhagavatam, by glorifying the entire Skandha and by glorifying the listening to and recounting each and every story, every pastime of Krishna described in this Skandha. And with this, we conclude the most auspicious 10th Skandha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.